What's up, everybody? Happy New Year. Hope everyone had a great holiday, celebrating the holidays with their family and friends and loved ones. But here's to everyone in 2025. Blessings to you and your family, and hope everyone is set to go. This is a player to be named later, G, and let's get started with the Raptors. This episode's going to be a little this and that. There's so much to talk about. Took a few days off just to kind of let things gather, see how the seasons unfold in the NBA, the NHL, and in football and NFL, and how the offseason continues to go with the Jays as we kind of wait out and hope that the Jays do something. But let's start with the Raptors. As the last couple of weeks have unfolded, they ended their long losing streak finally last night against Brooklyn. I thought they had a great game. Everyone's been really dumping on them with their defense, and it's totally understandable. That defense has to get a lot better. I think last night they did a good job. Jakob getting a little bit healthier, but they really need to find an anchor, to plug up that pain. Yeah, can't do it all by himself. Kelly Olynyk, I'm not sure he's really the answer to help him. You can't play them together, obviously. So Jakob needs some help. I think all the talk about all of a sudden trying to trade Jakob because he's probably their best tradable asset. Players like Jakob just don't come along very often. You can't just find them. The Raptors would have to really consider placing his production. He's had an unfortunate season at times, some injuries, as has the entire roster. I've been reading and seeing a lot of takes and narratives, as usual from the Toronto media and fan base, some blogs. Obviously, I'm not here to cancel anyone or out anyone, so I'll just leave it at that. But it's just funny to watch when they, have a losing streak. What did anyone really expect from these last two seasons? Everyone wants to compare their rebuild to OKC. I guess people have short memories. When you think about it, OKC just 2 years ago, in 2 seasons, had a number of losing streaks, including 14-game losing streak, a 10-game losing streak, a 9-game losing streak, and an 8-game losing streak, including one span where they lost 23 of 24 games, I believe it was. And this is with Shea. So people have short memories about what OKC went through to get where they are today. You also think about, everyone talking about their roster and wanting to compare the Raptors to OKC. I did it myself, and I still believe in it. I still believe the Raptors, in terms of talent, when they're all healthy, and we haven't seen it, when they're healthy and they can, string some games together, I think we'll see it. Because when you look back at OKC and the way they were built, first of all, Shea wasn't drafted by OKC. Obviously, Sam Presti fleeced the LA Clippers and were able to get Shea and all those draft picks for Paul George, who's obviously since been traded. But then when you look at, those draft picks, they were able to get Chet Holmgren. In the 3 seasons since he's been drafted, he's missed 1 full season and most of this season. So he's actually only played 1 full season, which was last year, considered his rookie year. And he's missed most of this season due to an unfortunate hip injury when he fell on his side. And then you think about Josh Giddey. Josh Giddey's already been traded. He's in Chicago. They hit on Jalen Williams. They didn't draft Isaiah Joe. They got him in a trade. When you think about the OKC roster and how it was constructed, everyone's up in arms, wants the Raptors to tank, draft this person, draft that person. OKC didn't do that. Yeah, they tanked, but when you think about the returns and what they're getting, Shea drives that bus. Jalen Williams was obviously a hit, but when you look at the Raptors, they hit on their draft last year. They were able to draft and find gems, in the later part of the first round. Jacoby Walter, Jamal Shed, J-Mo, Jonathan Mobile. I've talked about this numerous times. That's what you really have to do. And in addition to that, they added A lot of talent, I've gone through this extensively with RJ. We saw Emmanuel quickly return last night and what he could do. And then, of course, Grady and his development. Jacoby Walter has shown us a lot. And, of course, Scotty is there. He's the one that everything's being built around. So everyone who kind of jumps on and off the bandwagon, that fraction of the fan base, this is development season. As I said, those two OKC seasons before they really started to turn it around, they were playing 300 basketball. One year they were 20 and 52, I believe. It was a 72 game season, the COVID season that was shortened. And then the next season they were 24 and 58. And that was with Shea. Lou Dort was just starting to come into his own and develop. Jalen Williams, same thing. They went through a lot of growing pains in 2-3 seasons, and only last season they really came out of it, and this season they're applying that pressure. So Raptors fans, media, you doubters and naysayers, have faith in what's going on in Toronto. Don't just say one day, they're going through all these struggles and Scotty looks bad and this player looks bad. They've gone through so many injuries, and that talent is there. So, one day media wants to say it's a 1-year rebuild and things will look good next season, which I believe they will based on the talent that's there. And then the next day I'm hearing people think it's going to be a 5-year rebuild, and just be patient. If you really want to compare it to OKC, then look at the stats. I'm not even a huge stats guy. As you know, I do this, just talking to you without trying to get into too much analytics. The eye test is there. For me, the talent is there on the Raptors. They're all playing together and have had a chance to really compete together and gel and form that brotherhood. And we've seen it this year. The record doesn't indicate as much, but I believe they'll get there. Mark Daigneault's first 2 seasons as coach, he won, like I said, 22 games and 24 games. And, last year, coach of the year, he's really got that team playing. And I believe, when Darko was hired last year, I actually was hoping that they had hired Kenny Atkinson last year. That didn't happen. Darko does have to, come into his own. I think he's got that offense clicking, like I said, when they are healthy. But the defense has to, there has to be something done about this defense. One thing I'll give Nick Nurse is he knew how to draw up defensive schemes. It was his specialty along with the offense. He did a lot for the offense, obviously. Also, when he was Dwayne Casey's assistant, Dwayne Casey had a lot to say about that defense also. But they really need to come up with a scheme on defense and stick to it. It can't just, they can't just rely on their physical abilities and their talent, their athletic ability. They have the pieces. They have Jamal Shed. They have Davion Mitchell. IQ's back now. They have Scotty's length. One thing I'll give Grady, he doesn't lack confidence on both defense and offense. He keeps going. He makes mistakes and he's learning from them. And that's what this entire team needs to keep doing. And stop listening to the naysayers. Raptors players, you guys got this. Don't let losing affect what's going on with your development this season. The real fans know. The real fans trust in what you guys are doing, and just keep going. Get over that. These are the dog days really of the season. That's why the NBA has the NBA Cup at the start of the season. A lot of fans know that the NBA season doesn't usually pick up until Christmas Day games, and this year it kind of got watered down with the NFL takeover on Christmas. I think the NBA felt a little inferiority complex to the NFL because it's such a big beast. But the NBA has to keep going, and the teams have to get through these dog days of the season until it picks up after, we're looking at the trade deadline now. But NBA teams, I think a lot of that tired kind of feeling that teams have right now is just the way the game's being played. A lot's being said about the 3-point, how many 3-pointers are being shot these days, and it's ugly at times. Honestly, if your team is not hitting and their mandate is to keep shooting threes, it could get really ugly. And I think that is actually why you're seeing so many of these lopsided scores. It's not just defensive inabilities from one team. I think if one team's hitting and one team isn't, or one team has that ability to keep shooting and shoot through their woes, they'll get there. And we saw that with the Boston and Toronto game last week, where eventually Boston broke through. You saw what Sam Hauser and Peyton Pritchard can do, and it just takes two guys like that. And the Raptors weren't hitting that night. So yeah, I would say with what's going on with the Raptors, everyone wants to compare them to OKC. Do the research, look back just 2 years ago, and you'll see how actually closely comparison they are. And again, when you look at the talent on the Raptors, they just need to get through these games, keep forging a defensive identity, hopefully get healthy, get RJ back, have the full squad back, and then decide what you're doing with guys like Kelly Olynyk, Chris Boucher, Bruce Brown, because obviously they're getting minutes to showcase their talent and ability for teams who are looking to add assets at the deadline, add value at the deadline, talent to make a run at play-in and playoff seeding. So yeah, Raptor fans, I would say don't give up on this team. There's a lot to keep looking forward to regardless of the losing streaks. Again, look at OKC's record from just a couple years ago and look at the losing streaks they went through with Shea, with Lou Dort, with a lot of guys that are on their team now. And that's the stuff they had to get through, and that's why you see them together, doing interviews together, because they've gone through those times together. That's what the Raptors need to keep doing, and I think they will. Another thing I wanted to actually talk about was this whole thing with the draft. In previous videos, I talked about the Raptors, fighting for that play-in spot. It's looking less and less likely, the way this tank is going, the way their season is going. If they keep up some of these losing streaks, obviously they will find themselves in the lottery. It's not such a bad thing, but again, I still have my reservations about Cooper Flag. Everyone's saying, "Oh, capture the flag," and the Raptors want it. Is it actually written in stone that the Raptors have to draft Cooper Flag? The guy's shooting 25% from college 3-point. That doesn't really bode well in the NBA, if you ask me. Does he have the ability? Sure, he's 6'9", but 205, but Ace Bailey's 6'10". Dylan Harper, 6'6", 220. If you ask me, a nice big guard like that might be a good addition to the team, even though we're kind of loaded on the wing and guard right now. So who do they add? I think, you need length and size to deal with what the Cavs have going on. You look at that team, you look at Evan Mobley and Jarrett Allen. They have a lot to say about what Cleveland's record is right now because of that length. You need the length in the NBA. You need guys like actual 7-footers. The Raptors have Jakob. They need to keep Jakob Poeltl and not just trade him away, because when there were so many trade rumors about Jarrett Allen and the Cavs, and they kept him, they hung on to him, and now look at their team. And he has a big part of that. So I think keeping a guy like Jakob Poeltl is necessary for the Raptors. They still have Kelly Olynyk, like I said. I think his talent, his production is more readily, you can kind of replace his production a lot easier. I wouldn't just say it's a done deal to draft Cooper Flag. You look at previous number one picks who really got a cosign from the NBA like he is. Ben Simmons. Ben Simmons didn't do anything in college. Couldn't even take LSU to NCAA tournament. You see what his pro career is looking like right now. Another guy that comes to mind, Adam Morrison. Much heralded lottery pick. and you see what happened to him. So the proof is out there. I don't think Cooper Flag necessarily should be the number one pick. In my estimation, there are guys there who could jump him in terms of who could come out number one. Let's move on. Let's talk a little bit about what the Toronto Maple Leafs have going on. You see things are kind of playing out as expected for the Leafs this season. The only kind of question up in the air right now is Austin Matthews. But again, with the media, with fans, leave the guy alone. Stop wondering what this injury is. Just know that Austin Matthews is a warrior. If he could be out there playing every game, I'm pretty sure he would be. Whatever's going on with this lineup gymnastics that the Leafs have going on, whether it's LTIR, who knows what they're trying to do. Maybe they just want Austin to stay healthy all season, aka a lot like what Kucherov and Mark Stone have done in the past for their respective teams, just coming back in the playoffs healthy and ready to go. Maybe the Leafs think that they could skate through this entire season and pretty much end up in the same spot. Maybe, with all these teams, how they operate, they've done their analytics and their reports, and according to them, they think they're better off with Austin staying out all season and coming back healthy for the playoffs. Maybe they think in past years he's been too broke down by the time the playoffs start and he can't give them 100%. Who knows what it is nowadays? I wouldn't put anything past how any of these teams operate. But in terms of the media and what they're trying to uncover with Austin Matthews, leave it alone. The guy's getting more frustrated by the day with all the questions. Let him come back on his own timetable if that's how things are being determined. This is how the Leafs operate. They've been operating for 9-10 seasons, is basically letting the players decide for themselves. So if that's how it's going to be, let Austin do what he's doing, and I'm sure he'll come back on his own timeline. I think the Leafs, especially Craig Berube, have done a masterful job at staying at the top of the division in the Atlantic and staying, towards the top of the conference most of the season. It's, like I said, nothing they haven't seen in the past 8 seasons where they've mainly been at the top. It all comes down to the playoffs. I find that it's funny that the team keeps getting, they keep getting a pass, whereas a team like the Raptors, who've delivered a championship just in the past 5 years, within that same time frame, they don't get a pass for how they're operating. There was a lot of patience for the Leafs when they tanked to get Austin Matthews, and then from there, they got one of the best players in the league, and they have one playoff round win to show for it in 9 seasons. So I don't know how Toronto fans, Leaf fans, Raptor fans, if there's some crossover there, how they justify that, but I think we're just obviously going to have to see when we get to the playoffs. I think the third line has really come into its own recently. I'd like to see them stay together, that being Bobby McMahon, Max Domi, and Nick Robertson. They had to split up, obviously, with Austin going back on IR. So, like I said, with Berube, there's lineup gymnastics. Their defense, I still think is doing a relatively good, actually a really good job, considering what's going on with the goalie tandem right now. With Stolarz being hurt, it looks like, Wall's delivered a couple of really good games while Stolarz has been hurt. But at the same time, his confidence looks a little shaken, not knowing that Stolarz is there as a backup just in case. I don't know if that's mental, if it's physical. It looks like he played through something the other night, so that was good to see. But obviously gone are the days where goalies are going to give you 60, 65 games unless you're, a Connor Hellebuck or, one of the top goalies in the NHL. Guys aren't really looking to play 60, 65 games anymore, like it was back in the day with Eddie Belfour and Curtis Joseph, and those seasons are long gone with goalies at least giving you that much game time. So Let's see, hopefully Stolars comes back. I still think it's another 3 weeks before he gets back. And hopefully when he returns, he's healthy. The team returns to health. I think their defense, again, if they made a move on defense, I wouldn't be too surprised. I wouldn't be too shocked or bothered by it at all. I still think Morgan Riley plays a little too high in their defensive pairing. It's been 10 seasons. They've been trying to find a partner for Morgan Riley, and it's still to be determined. At some point, you have to figure, maybe he's the one you kind of have to look at lowering in terms of the defensive pairings. I love what Tanev and McCabe give you. OEL's a really good puck mover. I really like Simone Benoit's physicality. So, even Philip Myers hasn't looked that bad, but I still feel like Morgan Riley takes too many chances, makes a little too many mistakes in the offensive zone, on power play, doesn't make the right decisions sometimes. I think that's something that has to be looked at. And then the fourth line, I think the top six forwards, you kind of have set. Matthew Nyes, I'm sure will get out of his little slump that he has going on right now. Hopefully that starts tonight. He had a goal disallowed the other night, unfortunately, against the Islanders. Not really his fault. It wasn't really even Willie Nylander's fault. That goaltender interference kind of just happened. Got a little too deep into the blue paint and was pushed in a little bit as well. But I like the play from Nyes. He stuck with it. It was 3 chances to put it in the back of the net, and he did that. So Matthew Nyes, just stick with it. Keep going to the net. You're a physical player. A lot of NHL defensemen don't want to, play a guy like you who's rough and tumble and can get to the net and add that physical presence in front of the net. I think that's important for the Leafs. I said it with Domi, and magically he started to do it. Not obviously because I said so, but it was good coincidence that I saw him going to the net, shooting the puck more, and things started happening for him. So that third and fourth line, and even part of the top six, they have to continue playing that north-south game, and things will happen for them. Once again, good on Craig Berube for the job he's done, him and his staff. I think the power play still needs to get better, as does their power play. Their special teams obviously need to get better. So we'll see as the season goes on. But the fact that they're in the same spot as they usually are right now says, I think, a lot about Berube, because he's dealt with more lineup issues than I believe Sheldon Keefe ever has. Let's move on to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Oh, man. Okay, this losing streak, first of all, this was not a good time to lose 3 games in a row. You don't want to be losing games going into the playoffs. They went from division lead to now being a wild card team. Luckily, they were able to bank some wins at the start of the season, so they were able to clinch that playoff spot. But the game on Saturday against the Bengals at home, I believe, is a huge one. I hope they're all looking at it that way, because if they were on a winning streak and dropped 1 game going to the playoffs, I would say it wouldn't be such a big deal. But confidence-wise, just for the players' morale and how they're, feeling going into the playoffs, they really need this W on Saturday against the Bengals. Their defense is going to have a lot to say about this game. There's been questions about Terrell Austin's defense. Personally, I can't stand it. The Steelers have had coordinator issues for I don't know how many seasons this is now. It's been mostly on offense, going all the way back to Todd Haley, then Matt Canada. The defense has mostly been, has done its thing because of the talent that's been on that side of the ball. But this year they just have so much talent, and Terrell Austin is just, he's not doing a great job, if you ask me. In my opinion, the last couple of games have really showed that he just let Patrick Mahomes off the hook. Not being able to move TJ Watt around that line and get him on Patrick Mahomes more was, I don't know what kind of game plan he drew up for that game last week on Christmas Day against the Chiefs. Wasn't pretty. I thought the Baltimore game, same thing. The week before against Lamar Jackson, usually they're able to bottle up Lamar. He was able to do things against them, and they just need to get out, and start fast. Arthur Smith has to drop a good 15 plays for Russell Wilson to, just take off from and start fast. They really need that from the squad. Personally, in terms of coordinators, I just can't believe that the Steelers, Mike Tomlin, I can't believe he let Brian Flores go. He lands in Minnesota. You see other defenses plays, and we're stuck with Terrell Austin. I would say the defense in Pittsburgh has never looked the same since Coach Dick LeBeau left. He's a legend. I wish, when they had that talent on that side of the ball, he drew up schemes and plays for their guys who could produce. Guys like Troy Polamalu, you look at Minka Fitzpatrick, guys on their line and their cornerbacks, Ike Taylor and William Gay and Larry Woodley. There's just a whole bunch of players that got to make plays under Coach LeBeau. And, it just seems like Terrell Austin has these guys playing scared a lot of the time. TJ Watt is able to do stuff, Alex Highsmith as well. But it's almost like they're limited at times on where they can go and what they could do. So, the Steelers have to get back to playing mean football and being the bully on defense. And I hope that shows up on Saturday against the Bengals because they needed to. One thing I would keep in mind for Steelers fans, that I hope the Steelers, Omar Khan, the GM, I hope he's keeping an eye out. I'm sure he is Sam Darnold's contract, not his issue, but the contract situation with him in Minnesota. Obviously, they have JJ McCarthy as the quarterback they drafted. So the way Sam Darnold has performed in Minnesota this year, I really can't see Minnesota just giving him up. More than likely, they'll probably tag him in case JJ McCarthy is struggling next year, or who knows, Sam Darnold might just take that spot from him and be the starter regardless. The way the NFL works and the way franchise tag works, it'd be hard to see Minnesota letting him go. But if they did, I think the Steelers should be all over that. I don't know if Russell Wilson is necessarily the answer next season, or Justin Fields. They need someone to sling that rock, to sling that ball to their wide receiving core. And their offense has to keep growing and keep building next season. Yeah, so I tried to get through that episode kind of quick. I know there was a lot to take in there, especially with the Raptors. One other shout out I want to give, just on a tangent kind of, is I watched Dylan Brooks a couple of weeks ago when he was in Toronto playing against the Raptors. So it's kind of funny to watch where Dylan Brooks is at now, and I'm so happy for the guy. He really deserves to be in the position he is right now, because everyone wanted to cancel him after he stood up to LeBron a couple of seasons ago. He really took the pressure and the limelight off of what John Morant was doing to the Memphis Grizzlies internally, with all his off-court antics. Dylan Brooks, a stand-up teammate. There's a reason why people in Toronto love that guy, and it's because of the heart and soul that he plays with, and he's a real stand-up teammate. He showed that, and he showed what he's made of, because, a lot of even Toronto media I saw had that guy written off, send him to some team in Shanghai. NBA players, former players who have no backbone, and media who have no backbone. Why? Because he stood up to LeBron and stood up to the guy and played defense and didn't let LeBron just punk the Grizzlies. That's why everyone was ready to write off Dylan Brooks. And since then, all he's done is play the FIBA Worlds for Canada, play in the Olympics last year, sign a contract with Houston, a well-deserved contract, and he's putting up numbers, plays defense hard, has set the identity, a defensive identity in Houston, something Toronto really could have used at that time and right now. So shout out to Dylan Brooks. I'm really happy for the guy, and anyone in the Toronto media, in the NBA media who had him written off. Shannon Sharp wrote him off. Stephen A. Smith wrote him off. A lot of Toronto media that, Blake Murphy, I think, wrote him off. Vivek Jacob wrote him off, or at least wrote off the fact that he was going to make money in the NBA. And they wrote him off and said that he lost money by what? Standing up to LeBron? That era of basketball seems to be long gone, and it's kind of sad. Like I said, back on a tangent here, back to the NBA. I think the NBA is at a spot where they really have to consider moving off that 3-point, the reliance on shooting threes. Get back to the mid-range, get back to attacking the basket. That's what exciting basketball is all about, and you'll see the ratings go back up. No one wants to see 3-on-1s where guys pull up and shoot threes. That's boring. So boring. No one wants to watch basketball like that. Everyone wants to see if you're on a 3-on-1, then run a 3-on-1 break. Show me you can run a fast break and dunk on someone, or finish a layup, or take it strong, because 3-on-1s were not meant for pull-up threes. Again, shout out to Dylan Brooks. I'm really glad for him and how he is stayed in the league, kept all the naysayers quiet, and has really forged his path in the NBA. So guys, I'm going to wrap it up there. Thanks for tuning in. As always, the Blue Jays I don't have much to say about because they're not doing much. I'm hearing a lot more rumblings about Santander and Bregman. Hey, if it happens, that's great. If they're able to pull off those signings, honestly, I don't know where I stand with the Jays. I've been a fan for 37 years, and I was telling other fans the other day that I'm actually considering jumping the bandwagon to maybe the Tigers or D-backs if the Jays can't get Santander and Bregman signed. They need, in my estimation, they need both of them, because what's going on with Vladdy and not being able to sign him to a long-term deal yet, they need to get that done as well. So the clock is ticking. Atkins and Shapiro, you guys need to do something, but I'll leave it at that. Hopefully we'll hear something soon. Thanks for watching, everyone. I'll wrap up the episode there. Please continue to watch on all the platforms, my Instagram Reels, TikTok, YouTube. Please watch and subscribe on YouTube. Keep watching. I'd love it if everyone would follow me on IG, follow me on TikTok. The links and handles and all of that will be there. And once again, peace and love for 2025. I wish everyone the best, to all your loved ones, friends, and family. And I'll catch you all on the next episode.